Welcome everyone back to the Discord Theater. I know the last couple of weeks we've tried out Twitter Spaces, and while that was a bit of a different flavor, bit of a different experience, we have returned back to our good old home in the Discord Theater. There are a couple features that have been added to the theater since we last used it, so we do now have the ability to screen share, and I think there's a text channel just for the theater as well. Maybe a couple of other goodies. It's nice that Discord is paying some attention and is giving some love to this kind of format because this is cool. This is interesting, and yeah, let's get into it today. Hopefully, some of the people that maybe got used to us being in the Twitter Spaces will find their way back to the Discord. But I guess just habits are a thing. So this is the March 2nd storage provider call. Just yesterday or today, the February incentives were paid, so that's just a bit of housekeeping kind of at the start. As usual, the first or second day of every month, the incentives for the previous month go out, so check your wallets. You should now be a little bit richer than you were before. Assuming that you're a storage provider, of course, which you very much should be. Also, some of you may have noticed that at the time of this storage provider meetup anyway, the site, our main site, SC Prime, is going under some maintenance. So if you may have noticed that and said something, or noticed that and didn't say anything, that is what's going on there. So just bear with us for a couple hours as we perform some maintenance on the underlying servers and DNS and all that. Getting to some announcements that we've made over the last couple of weeks that have not made it yet into the storage provider call. So we now have the ability to offer basic to full license upgrades. We can now offer those, at least temporarily, to be paid in SCP token, which is kind of a first. It's kind of interesting. I can't make any promises on how long we're going to offer that, but it's kind of a neat upgrade path that now, at the cost of 2,500 SCP, you can upgrade your license from basic to full. So that's just kind of an extra option. I think some people were kind of asking about the possibility of doing that, so we're giving that a spin. And so if that's something that maybe makes it a little more approachable to make that upgrade, then go ahead, because I think full license is kind of where it's at. Speaking of full license, we do also have a new update there. So today we have pushed the 1.4.9 release tag for the full license X-Miners. So whether you're on like Windows or Linux or whatever your setup, if you run the installer again, that's how the container can update itself. There should be an upgrade button that you can hit. And now you can upgrade to the latest 1.4.9, which is, I believe the difference from the last one is mostly kind of UI tweaks and fixes. So it's not a super urgent upgrade, but in general, you should get in the habit of upgrading where possible when there's an update, and not let that kind of memory get rusty and then kind of forget how to do that or get out of the swing of it. So yeah, 1.4.9 is now out. So go ahead and upgrade to that. The Examiner, the hardware Examiners, I believe should already be running 1.4.9 as well. We are planning on making some edits and some changes, if we haven't already, to our guidance around collateral recommendations. So for the longest time, I'm kind of deciding here how much scope or how much context I need to give. Let's kind of refresh ourselves on collateral. So collateral are the SCP tokens that when you accept a storage contract, you are willing to kind of lock. And some people might see it as staking. But you're essentially locking these coins that you provide, and you get them back at the successful completion of or renewal of a storage contract. But however, if you fail a storage contract for whatever reason, and there's a couple different reasons why that might happen, then unfortunately those coins are lost, and they're actually burned. So nobody wins. Nobody's happy, because nobody is happy when some of the kind of underlying fundamental mechanisms to making our network work, when those fail, then no one should be happy. So we have, for the longest time, or for a while anyway, we have guided that 1x collateral is sufficient. So what that kind of means is that you should be locking or kind of staking or be willing to stake an amount of SCP equivalent to the value of the storage contract. Historically, like uh, yeah, and on the network that ours kind of derived from, that has been as high as like 3x collateral. So meaning that you're willing to stake or potentially risk far more tokens than any particular contract will earn for you, and that is can be seen as just being a really good network citizen, and really being able to, or being willing to kind of stick your neck out and vouch for the success of your own contracts, uh, which is nice. But we've generally seen it as kind of not very necessary, and that does come with some additional ask on the provider's end. So for a while we have guided 1x collateral, and what we are going to be updating our documentation and our guides and our messaging to kind of reflect is that we are now going to be asking or kind of guiding for 1.5x collateral. So there's a couple of reasons behind this. One thing that we've noticed over the last couple of months, and particularly the last just month or two, while the coin volatility has really been kind of crunching, is that there are a number of storage providers who are failing contracts from an entirely preventable thing. And that preventable thing is that they are running out of funds for collateral. So the issue with that is that they may be transferred out of their provider wallet any excess tokens that they didn't think they needed. Then the coin volatility kind of crunches one direction. In this case, it, I guess, crunched down. So that meant that they were having to collateralize more tokens for the same amount of data. And to the point of some storage providers have kind of run out of collateral, and that means that they're not able to commit properly to the storage contracts that they've already earned and already built up, maybe over the course of a couple months or a year or more. So that ends up in a situation where kind of nobody's happy. The storage provider loses their contract, they lose their data, they're not making money anymore, they're not happy. We're not happy because we were kind of counting on that data. We were counting on the provider being able to maintain it properly and be a good steward, which I'm sure they're trying to do, but just isn't always how it works out. So yeah, we are changing our guidance so that now we would like to ask all storage providers to collateralize 1.5x. That just provides an extra kind of buffer in the provider wallet for volatility. It means that you potentially don't have to be watching your storage provider as closely, because I kind of suspect in a lot of these cases where people are withdrawing all of their excess tokens and then not looking back, or like not keeping an eye on their X miner for a couple months, maybe not realizing the situation that they're in. It's hard to change that behavior. So all we can really do is make sure that there's enough of a buffer for it to be okay in that situation. So yeah, we make that ask. Of course, any excess tokens above what collateralization can use are just going to sit there and be safe, kind of like a savings account. But in general, this helps the network. It helps you be a good storage provider citizen, and I think most people are gonna understand where we're coming from there. So this is an ask. There's no kind of stick. There's no, because I know there are some people that are gonna say, well, what if I don't? In that case, I mean, I guess nothing really changes. But this is ultimately this ask that we're kind of making is to everyone's benefit. So yeah, please look into having some excess collateral on your storage providers. We ask 1.5x now. I would like to also invite up to the stage here someone who we're going to be hearing from. What I am hoping to do is, we've had over the last couple of weeks, we've seen some pretty cool storage provider setups from different providers across the network. I think it's always been kind of a favorite of mine to see different storage provider setups, see all the different kind of rigs that people are running, because big and small, messy room, clean room, there's all sorts of variety. And frankly, it's kind of fun to get to see a little insight into different storage providers and hear from them a bit. So what I'm hoping to do today, and this will be hopefully a long-running series, will be the storage provider profiles. So I have on stage here today Bertie. He's been with us, I think, for a little bit, but I'll let him tell you more about that. So I'll ask you kind of an introduction question to get to know you a bit. How did you discover SC Prime? How did you kind of hear about us, and what was your introduction to the project?
Um, so I think it was like December 2021. I think probably a lot of people that are in the Discord are either familiar or did helium. And at the time, I was propping up a bunch of helium miners on, rooftops and stuff like that. But so you have to get on like ladders and stuff like that. And I was just like dead tired of doing that type of install anymore. And I was looking for some sort of other project that didn't require ladders and being up, 30 feet up in the air. And one night I think it must have been Reddit that someone had posted some stuff about like mining with hard drives or something like that. Um, and then I just ended up taking a look at the project. So I got to the Discord, and at the time there wasn't. It was pretty quiet. It was pretty quiet in the Discord, except for the trading channel. So the funny thing about the trading channel is that I don't think there was any talk about trading. It was mainly memes, ketchup, and then pictures of pizza, like lots of pizza. And I was like extremely confused about the situation because I was like, what is going on with this project? But I ended up taking, like a day or two to read through a lot of the old posts from the project, starting in 2018, to figure out what was going on with it and where it's at. And, then I just started asking some questions about it.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's pretty funny actually that you bring up the trading channel. It has been retired now. I don't think we've had a dedicated trading channel for a little bit. Um, for a couple of reasons. It does have a special place in SCP lore, especially because if you go back to the very origins of our project, a number of the founders and the kind of early community actually met, and their hangout place was kind of in a trading channel, so that spirit kind of carried over here. And sure enough, yeah, in the trading channel, there's very little talk of trading. There's kind of the general channel, but that has been retired at this point because now we have a dedicated general channel or kind of open and distributed data center for the different, depending on how closely related it is to the project. And since sure enough there was no real trading discussion happening, then we just retired the trading channel. But I think it's funny that you bring that up anyway, and it does have a special place in SCP lore.
Yeah, it was just like my first impression of the project was seeing that the most busy channel was trading, and there was nothing. I don't think I saw anything about trading. There was some talk about like coin emissions. That was probably the most like actual informational, insightful information from that channel that I got. Was that that we're at the I forgot how many coins there are now. There's 48 million or something, and then it's gonna top off around or yeah, top off around like 55, 56 million. And we were going to get to that point in here in a couple of years. So that had me really excited about, at least as far as like coin price, like potential that, things might move up in the future. And because I want to say like my first buy on like South Exchange was like maybe like 350 sats. So it was pretty low. And so I just felt like I was very early and very excited about the project at the time.
Yeah, awesome. Touched on some good topics there, and I do suspect that that's been a number of people's experiences, kind of coming to the project at different points in time, finding that Discord is kind of an interesting place to hang out, but you do get to see all the different sides of the project, and you do, if you hang out for long enough, you will learn a lot. I know I certainly have. So I will ask you next, without getting into anything too personal, but can you tell us about your kind of background or what field you work in? So I know you mentioned earlier that you did some speaking gigs, but what's your deal?
My deal. Okay. Um, so I run a marketing department for a company that's in like the branded merchandise industry. So they're products that have like your logos on it. So if you were to get like something that has like a hat or something that had like X and S on it, That's the stuff we kind of produce. So I don't have a ton of like actual like technical experience with like computers and stuff like that outside of more hobbyist type stuff. Um, I went to college for computer science and dinked around with computers code and stuff like that. But eventually once I got out of college and doing some like IT admin stuff and system administration, that stuff wasn't really for me. So I find myself in marketing instead, just because I like to share stories, and that's one thing I want to say too. The sidetrack here is that I feel like SC Prime has an amazing story. There's, like sometimes when you see Foss write those like 5-page, stories on Discord, there was one back in the day basically explaining the battles and between like us and other projects and a lot of negative things happening. But the fact that SC Prime really had just like powered through all that, just ignored it, and has built like this crazy, amazing network with such a small group, dedicated team. That's just like an awesome story to share.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. I do kind of agree that I'm sure there's some metaphor with the coldest winters, only the trees with the deepest roots survive, something like that. But yeah, I kind of agree with that sentiment that even though I haven't been on the team from the very start, I do. I've been around for a while, and yeah, I do agree that um, there needs to be a very stable and resilient foundation in order to survive all that we've been through. So that's awesome to kind of see that even to newcomers, I guess that's even represented. So I will ask you now, kind of getting back to more storage providing, I suppose, although we can be fairly open ended if we want to be. Can you tell me about what your storage provider setup looks like, and maybe how you started out? Does that still look the same now as how you began? Um, yeah.
Yeah, sure. So I've got 4 storage providers at the moment. I might add some more in the future, who knows? I started off with the Examiner 64 terabyte unit. Um, my fourth quarter in the year when I was like purchasing this, I'm pretty busy, so I didn't really want to dink around too much with like setting up a computer or learning the software too much. And some of the 64 terabyte units were in stock, so I ended up buying one. And I mean, to be honest, it's been pretty awesome because it's out of all my other storage providers, it requires probably like the least amount of work, just mainly because it's like a dedicated device just doing its own thing. I'm also an Unraid user, so I've been using Unraid since probably 2011, maybe 2012, and um, and so I since Docker was available on Unraid, and you guys had a Docker container that we could pull. Um, I loaded that up on 2 different computers, and so I have 2 different NAS servers, and actually 2 of them are at like one of my friend's houses. He's got 1 gig symmetrical fiber, which is awesome. I have Comcast at my house, and they just suck. So. And then I've also got a one mini PC with an external hard drive on it. So just one of those HP Mini G3s, I think. So pretty basic stuff. I don't have some of those crazy racks that some of the guys I've seen posts on the Outreach channel have, but they do their thing, and they're quiet. They're super power efficient, and yeah, they just meet my needs.
Yeah, and while not everybody has the full on like rack mount servers, I have seen some other pictures from storage providers, and not to kind of make them the butt of the joke, but some of them sometimes have their guts hanging out, wires all over the place. So it sounds like you still have a pretty reasonable setup that I think you could be proud of. So thanks for talking to that. And kind of leading into somewhat of a final question. when you started out storage providing, what kind of goals did you have, and how have those goals kind of changed? Like, are they still the same now, or do you have new goals that you didn't even know were possible when you started? Can you speak to that?
Um, I guess one of my goals again was not doing anything with ladders, so I just didn't want to deal with that. The other main real goal is just to generate some additional passive income. You know, when you're thinking of passive income, you just got to start someplace. So you want to make goals of I want to make an additional $50 a month, $100 a month, 250 or 500,000. Just kind of keep building that up. Um, so that was the main thing, and I also had a bunch of hardware laying around that I wanted to utilize. It was it's just like some of my unraid servers basically just sit there and don't do anything all day. So I wanted to use some of that extra compute power, which I guess is for SE Prime, it's not very much, but yeah, just utilize some of the equipment I had and then just figure out ways to make a little bit of extra money on the side.
Awesome.
As far as like if how that's changed, I'd say it's pretty much the same. So I don't think a whole lot's really changed there. Yeah, I mean, I'm really hoping someday, and I feel confident that in a few years that we're just gonna have like a lots of data on the network, and I can really meet some of those goals with generating some additional income with SE Prime.
So you mentioned that you have a Unraid set up. Does that mean you're kind of like a power storage user? Like, do you use a lot of storage and kind of network appliances for some of your own uses?
For the most part, for like my storage, I have a pretty large like Plex server, so I think my Plex server is like just by itself is 60 terabytes of a lot of my movies that I legally rip, obviously. But so yeah, so it's really mainly used for my Plex media server, and then any of my friends that might want to watch some of my movies.
Cool. Yeah, it's awesome to kind of see how, as a storage provider, that can kind of work alongside some existing setups. There's definitely room for in a lot of places, and maybe not so much for Plex, but for also the amount of the large amount of people that have needs for cloud data or just data storage larger than like a USB thumb drive that could be serviced by Exanet services, and providing storage to potentially get some credit so you could store things. There's lots of different options that are possible. So I think it's cool to kind of be working all the sides, but definitely storage providing. So I think I saw you on Twitter. Your Twitter handles may be slightly different than your Discord one, so I hope I'm not confusing the accounts here. But did I see that you registered for SCP University?
I did. I actually finished it the other day.
Oh, did you?
I think I was gonna have my updated username in Discord be Bert, but I think there was also another Bert, so I didn't want to, get mixed up there.
Yeah, no worries.
But yeah, I think I spent like 4 hours total doing the SC Prime University, and while I knew actually probably a lot of it, I learned some new stuff about the relayer. The relayer, like the third episode or lecture was the one I was most interested in, just because I probably have the most amount of questions on that because I've set one up and I've played around with it and had limited use with it, but there's a lot to know about that, right? Still to a certain degree it confuses me a little bit, but I'm trying to learn more as time goes on so that we can talk to people about SC Prime and XNS and just how the project works a little bit more intelligently.
Yeah, there's so much to cover because it's. I mean, I'm having to introduce, and we're having to learn like a completely new paradigm, a new architecture, a new approach to web services, while also covering kind of specific, like what do you actually need to get set up with these different things, how the different software layers, what they are, and how their different purposes. There is so much to kind of speak to, and I tried to do a reasonable job with kind of balancing when I approached SCP University. So everyone knew enough to be dangerous, if that makes sense. They knew what they knew that all of that was there, even if they didn't end up needing to know a lot of particulars. So I didn't go into a ton of really low level particulars, but gave them enough tools on their belt that they could dive in and at least know something's there, so that later they could look more into it. So I'm glad that you enjoyed it. Did you kind of learn? Not to try and pull something too specific out, but so you mentioned that you learned a lot of the about the relayer, but in episode 1 and 2, well, I had some points that I felt making SCP University that there were some highlights in each episode. But in episode 1, which is kind of the most general one, and I go over a lot of the kind of blockchain industry, the market, a lot of real context stuff. So that might have been stuff that was more familiar to you. But did you still feel that there was like value, or there was still a point in kind of going over stuff that you already knew?
Yeah, you know, it just kind of reconfirmed that because I follow the project pretty closely, but it just reconfirmed that I am pretty on top of things with SE Prime. I thought, so in lecture one, what I thought was really good, and it wasn't actually in the lecture itself. It was one of the documents. It was the storage competition, specifically Article 2 was really good when it's talking about, some of the other projects and some of the differences of what we're doing. And I mean, basically, we're awesome. So,
Oh, I think we might have lost you for a bit there.
oh, did you lose me? Okay.
Yeah, just briefly.
Okay. Well, I don't know where I cut out. So,
Yeah, you're talking about the distributed storage competition part 2.
oh yeah. So basically, that particular article was really good to read, just because it had so much information about the differences between us and um, other projects and what they're doing, and it kind of just shows you that like the path that SE Prime is on is just doing it right, I think. So it's that's all really about that. But it was just really interesting. You should really everyone that's listening to this should really go at least read Article 1 and 2 of that and just dig through it. It's really interesting to find out what Filecoin and storage are doing, and then how SE Prime is going about things. So
Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that. I definitely would have. I wish I could have included that more directly in those lectures, but I was aiming for really that kind of 1 hour target per lecture. Um, so between those distributed storage competition articles that we've put out, and I, in the strongest terms possible, encourage people to look at those, and also as some kind of homework from lecture 1, that video that hopefully you watched on how Bitcoin like actually works. Um, if I could have included those in the 1 hour time budget, like going over those directly, then I wished I could have, but those probably would have added like 50% to the time that it would have taken. So I had to exclude those and kind of keep those as homework for reading on your own time. But yeah, I think that those like those articles, part 1 and 2, are really important for being kind of introduced, I guess, to what our project is, which probably if you're here in this call, and if you're Bertie especially, who's been around for a little while, you probably know a lot of the high level stuff, but I suspect you'll still learn things. And that's probably kind of a recurring theme as you go through SCP University, as you read these articles, as you read through some of the Discord threads in our various channels. That even if you've been here for a year or two, there's still a lot of particulars or kind of framing things a certain way where I think there's value in helping it click. So thank you for speaking to all of that.
Absolutely. Hey, Henry, did anyone mention or did you mention anything about like the photo contest that's going on? Thought I can just talk about it real quick.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay. So if you go to the outreach channel, there's some details, and I think it was tweeted out too as well about the SC Prime rig photo contest. Super easy to do. All you have to do is take a picture of your whatever your provider is or providers or all that stuff. Just post it online, share it online, put some tags on it, and I think the pot for it is at like 10 over 10,000 SCP and 5,000 SPF. And that contest ends March 23rd, so a couple weeks from now. But again, you should definitely post a picture of your rig. It's super easy, and you could win a bunch of SCP with it.
Yeah, I'm really glad you covered that. I looked at on Twitter anyway. The hashtag is SCPRig, all kind of one word. So I spent a couple of minutes the other day looking through on Twitter. I just looked up hashtag SCPRig, and I got to see all these photos that I'd never seen before of of different storage providing setups. So that was when I alluded earlier in the call to some storage providers kind of having their guts out and wires all over the place. That I did see a little bit of that, but you know what? At the end of the day, if it works, it works. Uh, and there are plenty of beautiful storage providing setups out there too that are just as worthy of love. So yeah, thank you for plugging that a bit. And there's lots going on in the outreach channel these days. So I know we talked about that maybe in the last storage provider call or the one before that, but awesome things happening in our community. And this is a community led effort. So that pot that is building up and yeah, is over 10,000 SCP now and 5,000 SPF. That is all community contributed, um, which is pretty awesome to see. Okay, well, if we don't have any questions from the audience, then I won't drag this out too long, but I want to give a big thanks to Bertie for coming up today and talking about some of his experiences, promoting some good discussion, and telling us a little bit about himself. So thank you very much, Bertie.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. Really appreciate it. Just real quick before we log off, oat milk. Bye.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thanks for coming on, Bertie. Um, we'll be back in 2 weeks, of course. We covered some good topics today, ranging from the fact that you can now buy your SCP full license or your full license software upgrade using SCP, which is kind of neat. Can't promise how long we're going to be offering that for, but it is an extra option for if you're already maybe on the fence. There is a new full software update, so 1.4.9. You can upgrade that using the usual means. If you're not sure how, either visit our support channel or preferably first head to the documentation. So that'd be docs.examiner.net, the normal place. And you can find that in the links channel in our server as usual. We are now recommending 1.5 times collateral. So this is kind of a soft requirement, but it is an ask and it does help the network. So if you want to be a good provider and a good network citizen, go ahead and make sure that there's some extra SCP in your wallet just to cover kind of volatility, any changes that might happen while you're not paying attention. It's just a peace of mind, kind of a savings account. And yeah, it's good for the network, good for you, good for me. Everyone's happy. So we'll catch you in the Discord over the next little while, and of course in 2 weeks again when we meet back here. Thanks for coming, everyone, and I hope to have a new storage provider to interview next time. As always, thanks for coming. Take care.